Hey, what's good, y'all? So, I was thinking, which I know is dangerous, but I was reading through, it don't matter. During Roman times when Seneca was in the Senate, the Romans came up with the idea of clothing all of the slaves into some kind of a uniform so they would be easily recognized. And ultimately, they decided not to because of the fear the Roman rulers had of the slaves realizing the strength in their numbers and how many there were. So they decided not to. And I was thinking about the way the Iranian protesters grew, not only in numbers, but obviously in their own strength and resilience. As I realized how many people were joining, which terrified the Islamic Republic and the events that transpired after happened. But I just thought, past 9 weeks, what I guess we should term as the 2026 Iranian Revolution has been happening, and it's terrifying silence and the ignorance around it and how much is being hidden or purposely not talked about. It feels like, anyway. I don't know. But for the past 9 weeks, Iran has been gripped by the largest wave of unrest since the '79 revolution. It began, which put the Islamic Republic in position to oppress the Iranian people until today. When it began on the 28th of December, as protests erupted in Tehran's Grand Bazaar and quickly spread nationwide. So what started as anger over economic issues with the currency collapsing and crushing, as well as inflation, which is going on around the world, but in Iran, with the way things were being ran, it was detrimental. Skyrocketing food prices and collapsing currently soon morphed into broad demands for political change and an end to the theocratic rule of the Islamic Republic. That's the Islamic Republic, not peaceful faith of Islam, which idiots confused. But by early January, millions were demonstrating across all 31 provinces. On January 8th, the government imposed a nationwide internet and phone blackout. And ask yourself why a government would do that. It's not because they want to be transparent and forthcoming with the way they are running things. A tactic aimed at blinding the world from what they're doing and what was going to follow. Security forces from the IRGC, including the Revolutionary Guard and Basij militia, responded with lethal force against the protesters. Reports from multiple cities, including Rasht and Fardis, show crowds met with live ammunition. So those aren't crowd control rounds, that's full leaded ammunition. There were mass shootings and chemical warfare used. And again, not chemicals that would normally be used for crowd control, but in combat. In some cases, fires inside crowded marketplaces erupted, leaving hundreds, possibly thousands dead. What began with economic grievances quickly became a challenge to the Islamic Republic itself. So authorities arrested tens of thousands of protesters, which included students, social activists, and even a ton of medical professionals who were giving medical assistance to those who were harmed during the protest. Some doctors were accused of treating the wounded, which was considered a sin against God under the IRGC. The judiciary publicly labeled demonstrators as mohareb, which again, enemies of God, which is a charge punishable by execution, and Sham trials and coerced confessions have been broadcast on state media. So, they shut down the media, they shut down the internet, they shut down the power, and they also had, the IRGC, the Islamic Republic, and their relationship with press in general, inside and outside of Iran, has always been extremely corrupted. There's been, in the past, there's been so many jailed and tortured journalists inside of Iran. And then recently, we had a CNN reporter get access into Iran, and they released a report that looked very North Korean in that, there was only 2 Iranians that were interviewed, and clearly they were relatively terrified at what they were saying and how they were saying it. The rest of the broadcast touched on Trump and the Islamic Republic's tensions, but overall, it wasn't a fully transparent reporting. Internationally, pressure is mounting was mounting in late January 26th. The European Union designated the Islamic Republic Guard Corps as a terrorist organization in response to the brutal crackdowns, a rare diplomatic rebuke to Tehran. As we speak, Iran remains under a heavy security clampdown. Families search for missing loved ones, and human rights groups warn that what we are witnessing may qualify as crimes against humanity. The other day, I did a post about the way the world responded to the Nazis with the Nuremberg trials. And if you look at what is necessary for a Nuremberg-style event to happen with the ICC and United Nations, I don't know. I'm not an intelligent person by any means, but to me, what it requires is a total military defeat of the state, an occupation with allied powers, and a political consensus amongst all the victors to prosecute the enemy leaders for war crimes, crimes against peace, and crimes against humanity. It necessitates a legal framework, which means a charter of some kind that sets up, these are the parameters, this is the international law that we're enforcing, and it has to establish the individual rather than the state responsibility, because each of the leaders of the Islamic Republic would need to be put, on a case-by-case trial. But the key requirements for such a tribunal to happen would include, again, the total defeat and occupation of the Islamic Republic. Political agreement, so the major world powers must align for the need for a tribunal, as seen with the US, the UK, France, and the Soviet Union agreeing to the International Military Tribunal in Nuremberg. Definitions of the crime. So the charges must cover specific serious offenses, including initiating aggressive war, violating war crimes, and crimes against humanity, which include murder, enslavement, deportation, torture, and so many other things that the Islamic Republic are doing to the Iranian people. Such a tribunal is designed to produce an irrefutable record of atrocities, delegitimizing the previous regime and provide justice to the people that they were over. So while the International Criminal Court exists today for similar crimes, a Nuremberg-style setup is essentially a victor's court operating outside of the established pre-existing international systems. I don't know. My heart breaks for not only my Persian friends and the persons that I work with, the Iranians that haven't been able to get a hold of their loved ones to this day, the Iranians in Iran who still have missing friends and family, the ones that are finding bodies returned to them with recent head wounds, meaning it was a headshot, which is I forget the legal term, but it's when they carry out an execution while the person is in custody. My heart breaks for Iran and Iranians around the world who are watching a relatively quiet world as this happens in Iran. And I hope that there's a major intervention soon. And I don't really know what else to do.